So yeah,
Yeah,
I think I just navigate the world as a traveler, and I don't fit quite anywhere.
good.
I think there's only a few people in the world
Yeah,
like with that same experience, but
yeah.
um yeah,
And
anywhere I go, I make it my home.
well, hello, StemToRoots. This is your host, Mike Temba. Today we have Anta, and in here we plan on talking our way into a plan. And Anta came to, said yes to coming to talk to us today. Anta, tell my people who you are, where you from, what you do, just anything you can let us know right now, because the rest will find a way to pull out of you before we end this conversation. So please tell my people who you are, please.
I am a traveler, an explorer, a wanderer. But
Mm-hmm.
aside from that, I am also a wife, a mother, a sister. My parents are from Gambia, and specifically, both my parents are from a tribe, the Karaninka tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And though I was born here, I did live there for some time, so I consider myself a Gambian. That's
Mm-hmm.
up for debate depending on who you talk to. Um, but that is a little bit about me. Professionally, today I am a senior vice president at a national bank and specializing in anti money laundering. So, in that
Mm.
capacity, I advise financial institutions on how to comply
Mm-hmm.
with federal laws that and requirements that they have as a bank in order for them to stay in business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
I
that's
want
a
to I
little
want
bit
to touch
about
on
me.
your professional career, Anta, because I know enough to know you've been in this banking world for a while now, your entire career. I'm interested in knowing where it started to where you are right now, a position that I'm so proud to know that you're in, a senior VP in an institution that is global. Like that's something I'm proud of, and I want to know, how you got there.
So, to make a long story short, I started 20 years ago in banking while I was a biology major, intending originally to be a plastic surgeon or a medical doctor. So, along that path and a lot of struggle and confusion,
Yes.
I changed courses because I was working in a bank and found a career path that I thought I was more suited for than my original intent of being a medical doctor. Um, and as with most immigrant children, I was driven
Yes.
to be a doctor because it's something that my family would be proud of. And I think that
Yes.
um, that was my primary goal, like, and
Your
my
parents
dad's
proud. Hmm.
justification for that is, yeah, he says, that's a goal. Being in the medical field is a place where you're not going to face racism, and
Mm.
you're guaranteed a position. So it's the credibility, the respect, the income that would be more certain in that field than in choosing business, which in my father's opinion is a lazy man's path. So
Mm.
I think all of that played into my desire to, you know me being his oldest daughter and only
Yes.
daughter. I'm like, I know that this is the path that I should choose because he has guided me and groomed me
Yes.
towards this. Um, and then in working in banking in undergrad, I realized that there was another path for me, and that's the one I took. So, as my career progressed, I would take on more challenging opportunities and new
Yes.
opportunities. And an aspect that I had not learned in all my time growing up and is not natural to my culture was one of networking. And that is something that, I never picked up along the way
Mm.
with the book smarts is, how to talk to people and to learn about new opportunities. And as a woman, even more so, to ask for the promotion, to ask for the raise, to be an
Go for
advocate
what
for
you value.
yourself.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. To knock on the door and know
And
your
say,
value.
this is what I bring, this is what I can do. And I think the things I did draw from my background and my upbringing with my family is just
Yes.
having pride in myself and knowing that I am intelligent and as my father always says about here versus our upbringing as Karaninkas and
Yes.
coming from Gambia is uh, sometimes in Gambia, and particularly for my tribe,
Mm.
is you have a predetermined set of things that you can do in your career,
Right.
and you can only go but so far.
Yes.
And so, he always emphasized to me that we are here in America where you get to choose your own path. So while they were encouraging me for a certain path, there was also that part to say, we have the ability here to determine our destiny in a way that is more difficult coming from this tiny little country that he
Right.
comes from or my parents
Yes.
come from.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I just kind of took all that into consideration, and I have taken it to be seriously, and I make incremental goals for myself year over year. Every 5 years, I need to be here, and I just make sure that I stick to that path to this day.
I see that.
And
I
so
see
I'd say
that.
that that's got me to this place, and hopefully will can get me to even higher places
Of course it will.
professionally.
Of course it will. You've proven it. Like the kids say, you have the receipts. It's something you said in that intro when you mentioned your dad. Your dad came here as an immigrant from the Gambia. You were born here. His experience has to lead him to what his advice and what his guidance is to you. Where you mentioned that uh, um, in helping choose your career path, that's he was actually strategic. He said to you,
Mhm.
hey, this path, this medical path, where not only the title, the name, and position, but you will be able to actually will respect to you because of your position, because you're in the place to help whoever stands in front of you. You are the one in position to help them, so they will have to respect you. They will have to respect your status and what you do. And your dad, as a father, is trying to position you well for what the society that he's been a professional in is presenting to you. And I find that super interesting, especially for a young father who has to be equally strategic in what you do with a black son or an African son. That right there, thank you for sharing that. And I want to
Sure.
uncover a few of that, just going back to the profile of people that we've spoken to here in STEM to Roots, because of the message we want to convey. You fit
Hmm.
right in there with a slight twist. Like a lot of the people that I've spoken to already, born in Africa somewhere, they had their financial foundational level education back home, maybe ended up here in college, got either stuck here or made the choice to stay here as a professional career. Yours is similar, slightly different. Born of African parents from the Gambia, started school here and then went back. Tell me when you went back to Gambia, for how long, and then what brought you back to the U.S.
Sure. So I went back to Gambia with my parents as a child.
Mm.
And I think that what motivated my dad to want me to go back to Gambia and get an education there was a couple of things. He just really felt like I was far removed from the culture
Yeah.
and our identity there. And when my parents were here in the US, they were the only Gambians, they were the only people of their tribe. In some cases, we're the only Black people in many of the places we
Many
lived.
places to, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So his intent was that for me to get that experience of living in Gambia to learn more about the culture.
Mm.
So I was there for about 5 or 6 years. And, so I spent my formal elementary school years there
Wow. Mm.
and lived in Serakunda,
Mm-hmm.
um, and went to school there. So
Mm.
I think that that was the intent of it. And the
Mm.
time that he brought me back was when
Yeah.
he felt like I had spent enough time there and I needed to come back over here so that we could all be in the same place because we were
Yes.
in two different countries.
Right.
My brother and I, my mother were in Gambia and he was in the US. So, um, for whatever reason, they decided for us to pull us back.
Yes.
Because I think initially, I would imagine, I suspect that part of that
Yes.
also is the cost of childcare in America.
That too. That too.
So
Yes. Yes.
financially, I think that they were going through some struggles financially,
Mm-hmm.
trying to make it here in the US.
Yes.
So the thought was, oh, let's go over there, let's pick it up, let's get everything together, and you guys come back. So that's
Mm,
what we ended up
mm,
doing.
mm, mm.
And then I came back to the US at that point.
And what grade, what stage were you as far as school goes when you came back?
So I left. I was in Gambia at kindergarten time. I did not start kindergarten in the U.S.
Mm, mm.
Around 5, and then I came back about age 10.
Age 10. So you came
Hmm.
back around age 10, and did obviously went did high school here, did college here, did
Hmm.
your entire professional career here. For somebody who's been like, I want to tap into, because I want to know, for somebody
Sure.
whose experience has been that, right? African parents, as far as the culture goes, you're as tapped in as anybody, right? Because your parents, they're so, as far as the community of Gambians and that Karaninka tribe, they speak the language, they're still as connected, they're still in touch with family. And so you're exposed to all that, including elementary school, like nursery school, we call it,
Hmm.
in Gambia, and then you came back here. Tell me your experience in being in two worlds, right? Where everything outside of your home here in America, and if you can even go specifically to where you lived then, tell us what your experience has been coming to an African household and going out there into the world, America, and experiencing, whether it's a difference in culture, whether a difference in just values and just things that you see on a daily basis, knowing your parents will either not approve of it or that would be their way. How did you navigate that as a child? Like I can't even imagine it because it's not my world.
So I would say that that's why I first introduced myself as a traveler. I
Mm,
feel that I'm a nomad, and I have come to develop this personality similar
mhm,
to a code switch, if you will,
mm.
where I adapt to the people in my environment. Like I walk out
Clever. Mm.
and I identify as a Gambian, one amongst Gambians.
Yes.
There's a part of me that identifies as American as some respects, but I would say
Yes.
that I always get pulled back to who I am, and in my core, I'm an African woman.
Yes.
And I say
Mm.
that to my kids when they're like,
Yeah.
"Why did you say this? Why are your expectations so high?" And I say, if somebody asks you why I said this, tell them you have an African mom.
Mm. Mm.
Because I have expectations of my children as students. I have expectations for how they maintain a household, my son and my daughter.
Mm.
I raised my son to know that um, I come from a place where men are the head of a house.
Mm.
They lead a family, and those values are within me that I want to put upon my children, because I think that African men have this intrinsic confidence that comes from us coming from a place where they are respected and supported. And
I see.
in some
Mm.
instances, being in America,
Mm.
it's my observation that the experience for Black American men is different. So,
Mm.
as far as me navigating both spaces,
Yes.
sometimes, I can't fully relate to the Black American experience, although
Okay.
I'm born here and I raised here,
Yes.
because of growing in the African family, the cultures, the way we think about certain things, our reactions.
Yes.
I'm very African in that way,
Yes.
but I have a disconnect with my own people sometimes
Right.
because of being born and raised here, and while my parents are Gambian, right?
Hmm.
There's a disconnect there where I am not seen or viewed by my
Right.
fellow Africans as African. They will think of me as more Western, and it could be for many reasons, language aside,
Hmm.
just because the negative side of how patriarchal society is
Yes.
that um, some aspects of me are very American, as far as me being an outspoken
Yes.
woman with my own mind and my own thoughts,
Yes. Yes.
and I struggle with that dichotomy, and part of it is because though my dad is the one who bred this independence in me. him being a patriarchy, being an African man who should want a son first, who had a daughter first. He raised me as if I was his son,
Yeah.
you know, to be
Yeah.
a leader, to be
Yeah.
independent, to think for
Yeah.
yourself, to
Yeah.
work hard.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
I think I just navigate the world as a traveler, and I don't fit quite anywhere.
Good.
There's I think there's only a few people in the world
Yeah.
like with that same experience, but
Yeah.
um yeah,
And
anywhere I go, I make it my home.
that's part of why I wanted you here, because I know your story enough to know. Not only do I want to know, but it fits with what we are trying to convey here and the things that we're trying to talk about here. As a lot of people here in the diaspora, by way of Africa, are here and they're starting their families here. They have their kids here. So and mostly sometimes it's African household, just like your parents' profile. They're connected to home. They have a kid who is quote unquote American born here. Now, how that kid is raised, they will instill what they know in them. Now, when they go out there, when the goes out there, just like I asked you, now that kid from a young age is navigating a world where some of the stuff that he or she is seeing out there and learning and being taught, right? The parents can't relate some of the things that the parents are teaching the kid, while when the kid gets out there, it's tough for some people, that some adult in responsible kind of like places for the kid can't understand coming from the kid. And that's part of why I wanted your voice here, because of what you just said, that almost unique position that you're in. And when you said it's hard to fit in that community of your parents, right? It's hard to fit there sometimes because of, not only the label, but for them, from what they know, dare I say, the judgment they cast in, you, whether, like you said, you gave a specific example, like being outspoken. Whichever way they were taught to have a woman, quote unquote, present themselves, judgment can come out of there. And that's just one example. And like you said, if you're somebody that a black woman out there in the school system, most likely the bucket they will put you in is that African American woman. And they will put you in that
Correct.
bucket where when you sit around a typical African American born here, of parents that are, generations and generations from here, they too, whichever way they were raised and whatever they understand the world to be and whatever their experiences are, when you sit with them, there will be a huge disconnect where now they put you in that bucket with them just because, of your skin color, and just because that label African American actually works for both of you, but two different worlds as far as thinking. I don't know how you
Yeah.
survived this, but
Yeah.
now I'm beginning to narrow it down to how you view the world, right? Anywhere you are, Mexico, Brazil, Gambia, wherever you are, you find a way to bring who you are to whoever those people are, and find a way to find commonalities. If you were
Yeah.
not smart enough to think of that, I see that as a very depressing place to be at. How do you see it? What got you there? What got you to that way of living that you've survived this whole dichotomy?
And it's that whole concept of home being where the heart is.
Hmm.
I'm always surrounded by my family,
Yeah.
and even if they're not right beside me, my family, my parents, my children, my siblings, I'm always able to not feel removed from them, no matter where I go,
Mm.
or who I'm with. So I don't feel lonely because my family is so broad and extensive, and I don't need to fit anywhere or be exactly like the people I'm around, because Charlo Jada knows who I am. uh,
Yes.
and so as a child, and it takes me back to my relationship with my parents is the center of my confidence. It's like, because people would say, oh, your skin is so black,
Yes.
or criticize me about my appearance. as if
Yes.
it was a negative thing here
Yes.
here growing up in the US.
Yes.
And I'm like, what is wrong with you? My dad told me I'm beautiful. And it was that definitive for me.
Yeah.
No one else's word or opinion mattered to me.
And it
And
nobody's opinion shook that because you were just
no,
so wow. Mm.
yeah, and I begin to understand like the world is about perception, and everyone's perception or
Right.
idea of what beauty is, what goodness
Yeah.
is, will vary. So I have to have my own center as to what that is.
Right.
And I think that people are only comfortable primarily or like
Yes.
people who are like them.
Yes.
And so I'm a person who's tolerant of people who are different than me and open
Hmm.
to that. So
Hmm.
as I get to know people, I do look for commonalities, but at the same time, I hope to find people who are more open minded to understand that we do not have to be the same in order
Mm.
for us to connect
We
and
don't
from
have to
learning
stick
from
to
each
buckets
other.
and labels. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm. Mm. You see, yeah, Anta, I'm used to calling you Chada. So if I, if I slip, let people understand it's you that I'm referring to. You see, just the society that you're in. You are somebody of community. You already, I think by now, 20 minutes in, people see the pride in which, like you see family as a core to who you are, your parents, their community, making sure you're fully in tune with that. At the same time, seeing the world as a place that you belong to and not limiting yourself. And you found
Mhm.
a way in your lifetime how you can navigate all of that and not be lost, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know, I call it strategy or maybe way of living or just your smarts, just how you're able to, like, because I've seen you in action. You've been able to go home several times, home Gambia, right? You've been able to go. The language, which is essential, to actually feeling as or belonging or feeling like, okay, I'm a part of this. The language is essential, and because not only do people connect with language as, okay, you and I are in the same bucket, but they also take it for you understand them. But you
Right.
found a way, yeah, you found a way to be respected within that society, not speak the language fluently, but be able to, whether it's something you got from your parents or just something you learned over time, be able to connect and relate to that person that, maybe you're speaking a common language, English, even though they know you are of Carolinka parents, but you don't know the language enough to communicate it, but they still connect with you. How did you have to learn that? Did you have to think about that and strategize? How did you do that?
Well, I would compare it to how they say people learn, right?
Mm,
So some of what you learn is from what you hear. I don't know the percentages.
mm,
What you hear, what you see,
mm,
what you experience,
mm.
right? So if if let's say learning is 10% what you hear, then I am not able to teach or have other people learn from me based on that percentage because I don't speak the language. I make up for that in what you see because I am still an African woman. When you see my face, anybody that sees me everywhere I travel,
Yeah.
if I don't open my mouth, they know this
Yes.
woman is an African woman.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And so you've got that part. So
Yes.
the connectivity is going to be there
Right.
visually.
Visually.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
then the other part of it is through actions.
Mm,
What are we doing together? We're
mm,
sharing a meal.
mm, mm.
We all like to eat the same foods. If I cook, I know what it should taste like. I know
Yes.
I'm looking for Emina and
Ah.
Toboggan and and Jimbo. I'm looking for the same spices.
Yes.
Our flavor profile interests are similar because I like the same things. We are okay, things that Americans aren't gonna like or think are stinky, like sea snail,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
smoked fish.
Yeah.
Um, those so I think the actions and that connectivity
Yeah.
from the food
Yeah.
and I should be wearing
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
patterns,
Yeah.
so having that commonality,
Yeah.
then people who we don't have the language connection, we still
Yeah.
have the
Mm,
visual connection and the experience connection
mm,
to
mm.
bond us even when those. So I would say that's likely the case of why I still find a way. So as you know, I just stepped down from being the
Yes.
secretary for
Yes.
United Color America, which is
Yes.
our my tribe's
Yes.
organization within the
Yes.
U.S.
Yes.
I didn't step down. I had its term limit, so I did
Yeah.
8 years. So I
Wow.
exceeded my term.
Yeah.
But I would say that's how I was able to find a connection and be of use and impact, and then also bring my skills to the group
Yeah.
and be able to help them for that disconnect. When
Yes.
you're a kid of an immigrant, I think
Mm-hmm.
they sometimes, and so I see it that way. Like in me
Yes.
supporting that organization, it was like I was
Yes.
supporting my parents.
Yes.
They only know our way of doing things,
Yes.
our way of seeing things.
Yes.
And I would say, well, let's call this venue. And I would call and negotiate because I'm not going to take the first price they give me. I'm
Yeah.
going to ask for the details and the questions. And
Yes.
that was me being able to bring my professional skill set or my American
Yes.
experience
Yes.
to help my community.
Yes. 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 So who are in the society that you understand from a different vantage point. You see, this is why your voice is important here, because your story is an African story. There's plenty of hunters out there that are from Ethiopia and Zambia and like South Africa that are born here of African parents that are navigating exactly the same thing. And if your story, if somebody can learn from how you're doing things, is where you can be that person, you can be you, right? And be able to live in these different worlds and take from every part, every facet of all of these things that actually benefit you and not only put you in a unique place, but give you the advantage of knowing more than just that one thing. Like an example you just gave is, this language barrier has been there. Your parents speak it. The language barrier is there. You're understanding some of it, but that didn't limit you. That didn't make you sit back and watch. You joined that Karolinka community and actually served. Not only, hey, I'm a member, but served for 8 years, bringing in something that all right, there might be a time that I'll be of value just because I know slightly more or different, from how otherwise things would have been done. So my voice is important here, so I'll be of service, right? And be able to connect that way. Somebody is out there who is from, Togo and born of African parents here, that might feel like, yeah, I don't speak the language. I don't feel like they'll accept me. I'm gonna just, sit back and not associate myself with, where I'm from. You
Yeah.
go beyond that. Not only the community here, but you go home enough. You immerse yourself in the community. They know you. You know them. You show them how proud you are to be who you are. And I hope somebody out there listening to this, this being an African platform, will learn or will help teach their kids, because our generation has a lot of us here that have really young kids, and if this is not groomed early like your dad did, right,
Yeah.
being the person of that first molding, letting you know your skin is beautiful, you're a beautiful African woman, to the point that because of how powerful his voice is in ingraining that in you, you go out there, some kid, thinks they can bully you by saying, "Oh, you're so dark, that's ugly." And you're like, "Oh, I'm confused by why you would think that it's ugly." And it's not affecting you in any way. You think the kid is a fool for even thinking that, because of how it's ingrained. It's not even a debate for you, right?
Exactly.
So I'm lucky to have like a partner that I observe do that to our kids. My kids have my hair, and the oldest one has the hair, like, even though it's braided but looks like dreads and stuff. And kids in school start calling it sometimes worms, like looks like worms.
Mhm.
So he comes home, and the way I just watch the mother tell him
Yeah.
about those worms on his head, at age 4, he's so proud. You
It's his
know,
crown.
every time he does it, he can't wait to go show it, because now it's instilled in him that, oh, they just can't have it, right? They're just jealous of it. There's just no way they can accomplish whatever he's, flowing with. And so he's already like, he's not saddened or like feel like any type of way about being called, like the hair called worms.
Yeah,
He's like, he can't wait to show it off. And that is what you express, and I hope people learn from it, Jatta. This
for
is why I
sure.
wanted you here. This is why you should not have delayed coming here, because the world is listening.
You
I
know,
can't believe we. Yeah, go ahead, please.
it ties back to even religion. And if you're a person that is religious and
Hmm.
believes in a higher being, you have
Hmm.
to know that we are all uniquely, wonderfully crafted, and everyone is special, and we all should be here. But most importantly, just because we don't look alike doesn't mean that it's negative, or and
Right.
it's so important to instill that. So I'm so happy to hear that your wife is instilling that in the
Oh
children,
yeah.
because
Yes.
it's so important. Like, we build these little people to be
Yes.
whom they will grow to be.
Yes.
And they have to understand that what they are is special, beautiful, and wonderfully crafted.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yes. And you are exhibit A of where that has placed you. With no, I've known you a long time. You are not one that has any issues with self-esteem. So, so your parents did something right. And if that is stolen from this conversation, that will benefit a lot of people. We're halfway through. This is the point where I take a break,
Okay.
and I soften things with something I call, tell me something you think I don't know. I know there's a billion things that I don't know. Pick one out of your bucket. Tell me something you think I don't know, and I'll see whether I'll admit to it or not.
Hmm.